The night was cold, and the rain hit the cracked windows of a dimly lit apartment somewhere in the forgotten corners of the city. Inside, a trembling little girl hid behind a torn sofa, clutching her younger brother, who couldn't stop crying. Her small hands shook as she whispered, "Shh, don't cry, Daniel. Mommy will stop soon." But the screams grew louder, a glass shattered, and then came the terrifying sound of a slap, sharp, echoing, cruel. The little girl's heart pounded so hard she thought it would burst. Tears streamed down her dirt-streaked face as she cried out, her voice cracking through the chaos. "Please, Mommy, don't hurt us." Her plea sliced through the heavy air like a knife. For a moment, everything froze. The mother, once gentle, now consumed by pain and addiction, stared blankly at the children she no longer recognized. The room reeked of spilled alcohol and regret. On the peeling wall hung a faded photo. A happy family once upon a time. A smiling man, a radiant woman, and 2 giggling children in his arms. The man in that photo hadn't been seen for years. Before we go any further, if you believe in kindness, in second chances, and in the power of love to change even the darkest hearts, please take a second to like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness to Heart. Your support helps us keep sharing stories that remind the world that compassion can still heal broken souls. The mother, Lila, collapsed onto the floor, sobbing uncontrollably, her body shaking as if her own demons were clawing to escape. I didn't mean to, she whispered, but her children had already crawled away, terrified. That night was the lowest she had ever fallen, a night that would change everything. 5 years earlier, Lila had been a bright-eyed woman married to Ethan Miles, a hard-working dreamer who built his life from nothing. Together they had 2 children, Emma and Daniel. Ethan adored them. His world revolved around his family. But ambition became his curse. He started a business that consumed him, and slowly his family became secondary to his growing empire. When arguments about time, priorities, and loneliness turned into constant fights, Lila began to fade away. One evening, after one fight too many, she took the kids and walked out, thinking she'd find herself again. Instead, she lost everything. Ethan begged her to stay, but pride and pain stood between them. The court granted her custody, and Ethan, crushed by guilt, signed the papers believing it was best for the children to stay with their mother. He didn't know how far she would fall, or how much they would all suffer for it. Years later, Ethan's company had made him a millionaire. On the outside, he had everything: cars, houses, success, but inside he was hollow. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw Emma's smile, heard Daniel's laughter, and remembered the woman he once loved. He tried sending money, gifts, even letters, but Lila returned them unopened. She didn't want charity. She wanted her pride, her control, and her pain. But pride didn't feed her children. And over time, when jobs became scarce, bills piled up, and loneliness sank in, Lila turned to the bottle for comfort. Then came the wrong friends, the wrong choices, and finally, the nights where the children learned that silence was safer than love. One winter night, a neighbor, Mrs. Garcia, an elderly woman who lived down the hall, heard the cries again. She'd ignored them too many times before, convincing herself it wasn't her business. But this time, something inside her broke. She called the police. When the officers arrived, they found a shattered home, empty bottles, broken furniture, and 2 children huddled together, pale and terrified. Lila was taken away that night, screaming and begging them not to take her babies. But it was too late. At the same moment, in his luxurious office miles away, Ethan was signing another contract when his phone rang. The voice on the other end trembled. "Mr. Miles, this is Child Protective Services. We need to speak with you about your children." His world stopped. For a moment, he couldn't even breathe. The pen dropped from his hand as he whispered, My children?" He hadn't heard that word, "my," in so long it almost sounded foreign. When he arrived at the children's shelter, his knees nearly gave out. Emma, now 8, was sitting on a metal chair holding her brother tightly. She looked so small, her eyes wide and haunted. The moment she saw him, her lips quivered. "Daddy," she whispered. Ethan fell to his knees, pulling her into his arms. "I'm here, baby. I'm here now." But Emma didn't cry. She just trembled silently, like she was afraid that if she let go, he'd disappear again. Daniel, just 5, hid behind his sister, peeking at the man who once held him in bedtime stories. "Do you still love us?" he asked in a tiny, shaking voice. Ethan's heart shattered. He hugged both of them tightly. "More than anything in this world," he said, but deep inside, guilt burned like fire. Taking them home wasn't easy. The children were quiet, distant, and scared of loud noises. Emma flinched at the sound of a door closing. Daniel woke up crying at night. Ethan tried everything: therapy, gentle conversations, movie nights, warm dinners. But healing takes time, and love, even when abundant, cannot erase trauma overnight. Sometimes Ethan sat alone at night, staring at the old photograph he'd kept all these years, the same one from the wall of that broken apartment. He couldn't help wondering, where did we go wrong? Then, one rainy evening, Emma came to him holding a crumpled drawing. It was a picture of their family, her, Daniel, Daddy, and Mommy. "I miss her," she said softly. "Even when she hurt us, I miss her." Ethan felt a lump rise in his throat. He wanted to say that some people don't change, but instead he said, maybe Mommy needs help too. And that's when something shifted inside him. He had the means to help, not just financially, but emotionally. So the next morning, Ethan found out where Lila was. She was in a rehabilitation center downtown, a pale shadow of the woman she once was. Her eyes were hollow, her voice soft. When she saw him, she froze. "Why are you here?" she whispered. "For them," he said. "And for you." At first, she refused to talk, but Ethan didn't give up. He visited every week, sometimes just sitting silently while she painted or cried. Slowly, she began to open up about her loneliness, her shame, her regret. She told him she had nightmares about the children's screams, that she'd wanted to stop but didn't know how, that she hated the monster she'd become. And over months of painful honesty and forgiveness, something unexpected happened. The hate between them began to dissolve. Not into romance again, but into something purer, understanding. When Lila was finally released, Ethan brought her to see the kids. Emma hesitated, clutching his hand tightly. But when Lila knelt down and whispered through tears, "I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry," Emma broke. She ran into her mother's arms, crying uncontrollably. Daniel followed, confused but smiling when his mother kissed his forehead. For the first time in years, their family wasn't perfect, but it was whole. The road to healing was long. Lila stayed in a halfway house, attending therapy. Ethan supported her quietly, making sure the kids saw her every weekend. Slowly, Emma began to laugh again. Daniel started sleeping through the night. Their house filled with life, with drawings on the fridge and warm dinners shared under gentle lamplight. And one evening, as they all sat watching an old movie together, Ethan felt something he hadn't felt in years: peace. The same woman who had once screamed in despair now laughed with her children, and the man who once drowned in guilt finally forgave himself. Sometimes life doesn't give us clean endings. Sometimes redemption is messy, filled with scars and second chances that take everything from us before giving anything back. But love, real love, doesn't fade when people fall. It waits, it believes, and when given the chance, it saves. That night, as Emma fell asleep in her father's arms, she whispered softly, "Daddy, I'm not scared anymore." Ethan smiled, kissing her forehead. That's because love chased the fear away. If this story touched your heart, if you believe no one is too broken to be redeemed, please take a moment to like, share, comment, and subscribe to Kindness to Heart. Your support helps bring more true-to-life stories of compassion and healing to the world. Before you go, tell us in the comments, do you believe that people who've made terrible mistakes deserve a second chance, if they truly change? Because sometimes, forgiveness isn't about forgetting the past, it's about giving the future a fighting chance.